Basis 24, Part 7. With co-researcher Kathy Morgan, we travelled to St. Ives to see the now returned from the United States, James Casbolt. We wanted to find out what happened, why he had returned, and how was he in general, because James was angry and not in a happy state. Part of this interview has been aired already, and it caused great offence to some of the individuals concerned. I have taken considerable thought about publishing this interview in its entirety, and I've decided to do so because subsequently James has since been sentenced to a very long period of time in jail, 12 years, and it's only 12 years in jail because he admitted to blackmail and other charges which he subsequently committed after this interview. I realize that Max and Lorien and Sarah were all grown up in this particular subject. This is uncomfortable. This was a very uncomfortable time for everybody. But because James is in jail for that length of time, I believe that it would be wrong to cut those remarks out. Lorien and Max and Sarah have made subsequent statements. Max and Sarah made a very courageous statement on stage at the second Basis Project Conference this year, 2015. It is to understand the turnaround that Max has done based on a wider perspective that I'm keeping James's hurtful remarks in on this edit. James has just returned from being thrown out of the family home. Considerable discord has happened, obviously. A lot of things have been said, and a lot of things were to soon be done. James had already stated to some of his other colleagues before he went to the United States that if it was necessary for him to go to jail, he would go to jail. Now, I also recorded the day before his first main appearance in court, where the charges of blackmail were added to those charges, which are publishing indecent photographs and a number of things. I had to go to the police and report James for serious statements that he made. Crucially, this was shortly after this interview. He appeared in person for the very first time in public and repeated many of the things which he says now in this interview to those in public. As a consequence to that, I reported him to the police here in Devizes, and that report became classified. But the primary reason was once that edit of James and his statements at Basis at the Barge, I received a phone call from a person in extreme distress. And ultimately, without going into the details, when people are in such despair and distress, it's simply not acceptable. In this business, people can say one thing and say another, and we can bruise egos and we can say all sorts of things. And ultimately, on one level, we can take these sort of things on the chin. We're grown up and we're adults. But when it leads to such extreme distress, it's just plain wrong, and those individuals are not able to defend themselves. So that report had to be made. So here we have Basis 24 and not 34, as I keep saying on camera, with James Casbolt as he declines after his traumatic and very seriously damaging time in the United States and his return to England and ultimately his passage to jail. which is covered in separate interviews and basis updates, which will not be added on this report. So with thanks to Kathy Morgan and James Casbolt himself, this is Basin 24, Part 7.
Kathy, we're on a mission. What on earth are we doing in Western Supermare?
Well, Miles are on a mission to try and get to the bottom of what's going on, clear the air with anyone who may have become affected by a certain situation that seems to be upsetting people.
You're allowed to say his name. What on earth, what brings you to have an interest in James Casbolt?
Well, I have never actually met him, but I have spoken to him on the phone a few times, and I feel he was important because he was the first person that I saw, because I saw Barry King afterwards, but talking about the underground bases in the UK. So I've always kind of been interested in what he had to say at that time, and as it happens, we're meeting him now under the sad circumstances. Perhaps he's not been doing as much research recently himself. So he did research a very, very good book called Agent Buried Alive, which I would highly recommend to anyone who's got an interest in UK underground bases and, of course, the super soldier programs.
Well, we are here under the reconstructed pier at Western Supermare. I wonder if James or Michael will be able to reconstruct his life after what's been going on.
He's certainly, yeah, I really hope so. He's certainly got some reconstructing to do by the sound of things, but more on that later.
Okay. The Western Supermare. Well, Kathy, do you think the interdimensional spacecraft and the helicopters taking pictures of us by sheer coincidence?
Goodness knows what else he's got to look
The
at.
second sweep it came over there.
Yeah, on this beach, on this empty beach. I'm just curious.
Yeah, it just seemed to bank over us.
Quite coincidentally, no doubt.
By, I mean, maybe if you were a conspiracy theorist or something like that, you might believe that was somehow meant for us.
It happened the last time you got the camera out in the crop circle, you remember?
They can always buy the basis videotape in high definition We only charge about 25 million quid, then we can start a TV station and do this thing right.
That's not a bad idea.
This is March 2014, we're in Weston-super-Mare, and this is Basis 34. We've shot Basis 34 over about a year with some people who knew James Casbolt, aka Michael Prince, before he went to the States. Michael's been kicked out of the States. There's a hell of a mess. Originally Basis 34 was simply to cover the area where other people knew him before he went to the States. He's since come back from there, left his child behind. Big row, big mess, a right screw up. Kathy joined us in the Basis 34, and Kathy's got some interested things she'd like to talk about with James, and we'll be doing that in the next day or so. So, hello Kathy, how are you?
Hi Myers.
Speak loudly for the mic.
Hi, yeah, here we are on our way.
Fresh from Manchester, very long drive last night, and we're sort of breaking the journey here in Weston-super-Mare. We've got the wonderful rebuilt pier over there. And what do you think about James Casbolt, Michael Prince? Why the involvement? Is it the Mark Richards thing or what?
Hold on, right. Mark Richards has got a lot of parallels. His life has got a lot of parallels with James Casbolt. So I haven't, despite James's behaviour, as I said, he has upset a few people recently. It doesn't mean that I really have lost interest in aspects of his story, because he's brought so much information to light about the areas that I'm interested in. So part of the mission is to pursue that research, really. But the other part is to just make contact. I think we want to make contact and see what's going on.
Well, this is what we call the annoying shot that the BBC keeps doing. One person doesn't speak and just looks, what's he doing there? And the other person says something interesting. So we'll focus in on something interesting. So what's the connection with Rudloe Manor?
Okay, well, we're going to talk to James about Rudloe Manor. There's been some new information again from Mark Richards regarding Rudloe Manor. He describes meetings organised around that area and at Rudloe Manor that involve both alien and human participants, but also mentions one of these meetings coming under attack by some sort of time weapon, which caused some sort of ripple or anomaly in a weaponized way.
Now this is very important because talking with John Irwin, he is talking about how the human body cannot survive physical time travel, which means they must have tried it.
Well, I'm interested, obviously, in the connection between Rudloe Manor and time travel, because I was moved as a child to 3 miles away from Rudloe Manor. So to hear that at that era in the early 60s, that there was so much going on. Again, Mark Richards describes in detail a conference in 1961 in Exeter, an NET human conference too. So I'm writing to Mark myself at the moment. I'm trying to get some of this British stuff,
because it's connecting Rudloe Manor, that's near Warminster, and it's also in crop circle country.
Rudloe Manor is on the border between Wiltshire and Somerset,
and we're in Somerset now. The Atlantic Ocean behind us, the Irish Sea actually behind us, but also the location that we're going to is where Lisa Williams from Basis 1 lives, and she hasn't wanted to appear on camera really since Basis 2, but we hope to be talking to her, and also Jan Rodrigo, who came the whole way from Cornwall to speak to me last year, and also the grid keeper.
Very good.
And we'll all feature this on Basis 34. And your brilliant work, Kathy. Okay, Michael. What has happened since the Super Soldier Summit last year? We were speaking at the Super Soldier Summit last year. Things seemed to be okay. Then there was a thing called a mass abduction. Do we want to talk from there on about the mass abduction of my lab? Because there's some other people talking about that. How much of this is baloney? How much of this is made up? How much is this marketing for Lorien? God bless her, but it's a good story.
Not really, God bless her.
But okay, so what's your view on that?
Well, the mass abduction, that was the trigger event that caused all hell to break loose, basically.
Now, you're saying, and other people are saying I was involved with that. I have no memory of that whatsoever, okay?
Yeah.
But I did, there was something I did personally,
Right.
which somebody else, which I won't mention, noticed had happened.
Yeah.
And I was quite interested in that particular thing, but that's just between me and, and the wall, so to speak.
Yeah.
So what happened, and tell us all about that.
Well, I mean, do we really need to go into it
Well,
all again?
just to sort of set the scene, because it was at the conference that things started to break down.
We talked about that, didn't we, on the last interview, what went on there. And it was the trigger event for the chaos that started when we returned to Haley and I and the baby went back to Texas.
Well, that's why I thought it was worth mentioning it.
I mean, after the summit, Max Spears and Sarah Adams came to stay with us.
Yeah.
And
now let's just set the scene for people who have never seen this before. Max Spears is a British so-called super soldier.
Yeah.
And let's classify this term, the super soldier. You're not super soldiers like Tarzan and Superman. I think it's really a marketing term for a summit that's been run by Lorien.
And the whole thing just, I mean, that was the trigger event for it, and then Haley and I returned to Texas.
Yeah. So what happened?
What happened?
Max is another British super soldier.
Yeah.
Who has got background similar, I'll just call it vaguely similar to yourself, because I don't know Max's background.
Yeah.
And I don't know the differences and the intricate issues between yourself and Max.
Well,
but from an American point of view,
right.
We have a situation in the United States at a conference where you get two British individuals who have got connections with this sort of series of programs. And from a British point of view, it's a very interesting thing that there's more than one James or more than one Michael.
Yeah.
So to speak, that this is a wider story.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, when Max came out from day one, he was copying my testimony, or we need to say that, practically word for word, stuff that I'd written. He was going on radio shows and basically reeling it off, what I'd said. And the bottom line is, the guy wants to be me. It's like he was trying to pull Haley from day one. And him and Sarah came down to stay with us in Texas after the summit. And Sarah is trying to get in Haley's head, as she does, because she's good at getting in people's heads. And subtly convincing Haley to kind of pull away from me. And then Haley's mum comes down, Deb, and says, by the way, Michael, the Haley's trustee, the banker, says that you two have got to separate. So we're being told by a banker who controls our trusts, more Haley's trust, but I was living off the trust too in America. That was the wages being paid by the CIA for the hits that I was doing in America. It was being paid through trust funds. And so we get told by a banker we're getting split up.
Well, bankers seem to run the world at the moment. They're very nice people.
Yeah, but it's almost comical,
Yeah.
Getting told by a banker you'd split up with your wife. So Deb says, she says, you'll get 75 grand prenup and then you're on your own. But don't worry about it because you got a watch out of it. That's what she said, because I got a Rolex watch.
Right.
So you're going to lose your son, you're going to lose your wife, but don't worry about it, you've got to watch out of it. This is the way these people think, you know. They don't really do emotions.
Right.
It's cold, it's like, it's all about money, you know. So I get put in the hotel and then all hell breaks loose. I get put in the Marriott Hotel.
Yeah.
You saw the car, the NSA delivered the car to
Yeah.
me. You've seen the
Yeah.
car with the 007
We're now
number
talking
plate.
about the shooting, and has the shooting happened by then or what?
No, I'm in the hotel for a couple of days. The NSA delivered the car outside, you know, with the NSA stickers in the window, Fort Me, 007 SBC number plate. Give me the keys, and then say, oh yeah, you're the guy you're getting paired with for the mission's coming down. Max turns up. So we go to Fort Sam, which is very close by. I was staying near the airport there. Go to Fort Sam, and we met some generals there, picked up documents, and the documents showed. So what we were talking about when the reception kept going down in San Francisco, it showed a UFO landing or spacecraft landing in Banff National Park back in the 80s, around 84, and I was getting off the ship on the pictures as a kid with adults.
Now, you've mentioned in the past, or by definition, your persona, or as mentioned in the past, it was different versions of you, clones and things. Does that involve that, or not?
No, this was me, it wasn't a clone.
Okay.
Yeah, this was me. And Zbigniew, I struggled to pronounce his name, Zbigniew Berezinski. He was there meeting us. Ronald Reagan was there too, in the pictures. And he was president back then, around 84. And there was another picture. It showed Berezinski with a group of about 10 boys in Banff National Park, and I was there sitting down with the boys there.
Right.
And so it was. The point was, you keep asking for evidence. Everybody keeps asking for evidence. We were trying to get some, you know, and get it to you. So we go there, and then we drive back. The documents are there, sitting in the car park, chatting, waiting for the guy to come pick up the documents. And then they kind of kept me in there. They gave me loads of scans and things. But when I got close to the machines, all the MRI machines shut down. So they had to take me to a different floor or something, and there was 2 police guarding the bed. I got photographs of it, me on the bed with the IV lines in, and 2 police guarding it. And it was only when I got back to England I started to settle down.
Have you been forcibly excluded from the United States? I mean,
yeah, I'm banned from America. If I set foot in the States, I'll be arrested. Yep. I've got a warrant, extradition warrant out for me by all the national police. Not to be extradited from England, but it doesn't matter what state I go into, I'll be extradited to California to stand trial.
for.
Well, I haven't done anything.
But what's the charge? Do you want to say
Putting
that?
naked pictures of Haley on the internet. You know? And I had to do that because I had to bring a lot of attention to the case to keep her in Dresden safe. Because her dad's trying to get her murdered. He's been trying to do it for years.
Right.
And he's trying to get her murdered before she hits 30 and now starts to remember what he's done to her. You know, he's obviously, everyone knows he's been involved with incest, abusing her since she was 5. You know, she was drawing pictures of.
These are allegations, obviously, that we.
Well, she was drawing pictures of little girls giving guys blowjobs when she was 5.
I mean, there's
where's a
already
5-year-old see that?
ambitions that she's part of the Monarch program or
Of course, yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, I mean, she's from the same area as Cathy O'Brien. She's Gerald Ford. You know, she was modelling his dresses on stage, Betty Ford's dresses, on slave auctions where she was being bought, where other slaves were being sold. You know, she's got pictures of that. Her granddad was really close friends with Gerald Ford. Her dad is Hank Meyer, M-E-I-J-E-R. He's the co-chairman of the Gerald Ford Presidential Foundation. You can go on the website, see his name, and then you see the trustee officers. You've got Kissinger, Rumsfeld, Cheney.
Well, I mean, we're talking about the
Greenspan.
Monarch program, which is very well described in the book Transformation of America.
Which was that was going on with her, Cathy O'Brien in Muskegon, with Gerald Ford. And it's just near Grand Rapids where we lived. And, but like Hank's psychologist told Hank and Deb to walk around the house naked when she was growing up to try and disguise the incest, what was going on. And she was, you know, they was all having sex every afternoon, her, Haley and Hank. Yeah. And she's
What actually, how did you meet? I mean, how did this situation start here in St Ives? You know, how did you? I mean, you've described the unification of two bloodlines.
yeah.
One of the witnesses from the MASH project, a guy called Jeff Scott, has described a very similar thing at the MASH conference a year ago in 2013, where he provided offspring to a very prominent Jewish family, and then was forbidden to see him again. I mean, I see a parallel with your situation. What does that mean? What's the whole process involving that? Why are they creating a new bloodline?
It's the exact same situation with Jeff. What happened? It was.
I mean, I don't know if you've spoken with Jeff or mentioned it.
I haven't.
I mean, he's a complete come from a completely different source. He came from the Bufog,
I mean, I don't know.
Birmingham UFO group.
It's like what are Haley's family like? What are Hank and Fred, her granddad? You know, are they trying to breed our genetics into them to hide themselves more effectively?
What is being hidden?
Well, there's a perfect example of that on Facebook. Posted a picture because Fred died a couple of years back, and I think it was 91, the granddad. He was like the 49th richest man in America, billionaire, on the Forbes list. And it's got a picture of it. He's got his arm around his wife, and his hand has changed into this horrible claw thing, and it's just disgusting.
But they're not actually reptilian. It's some other kind of being. Is when their natural state. Is that right?
I don't know what they are. And he had a blood vat van that would follow him around everywhere he went when he was getting older, because he was hooked on blood like a junkie, like Al Gore. You know?
He's saying Al Gore's hooked on blood.
Apparently, yeah. Apparently Al Gore has a fridge that he on the planes now, and it's all different blood types. And they're saying, oh, it's just in case he gets shot, but it's all different blood types. So why has he got all different? Because he's drinking it, because he's hooked on blood. It's really addictive blood. And all these rituals at Bohemian Grove and everything, they've been getting hooked on blood for years. You know, if you don't have it, you're going to like heroin-like withdrawals, because there's like a psychological identification with drinking blood.
In what way do you mean the psychological identification?
Well, especially if the blood's full of hormones.
And that's
if you
why,
terrify somebody.
that's the purpose of terrifying the individuals.
Exactly. It's going to be full of opiates, endorphins, adrenaline. You take that, you're going to get high as a kite. You know, if you drink that. So you know, it comes to the point where Fred needs that much blood. He has to have a blood vat man following him around. The first time we met Fred and Lena Meyer, Haley's grandparents, he was. We met him at the Fred Meyer Gardens. It's almost like the Eden Project. But it's like
the Eden Project is a major project here in Cornwall.
It's like that, yeah. Fred Meyer.
Sort of domes and things like that.
So the Fred Meyer Gardens in Grand Rapids was like the Eden Project with his name. So we met him there in a cafe first time for lunch, and there was a blood vat van just parked outside.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in a nutshell, you're not actually banned from the United States. You just, if you go there, you'll be arrested.
Arrested and put in prison, so I'm kind of effectively banned.
Yeah, but there's a difference between not being able to land and being arrested and kept there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, one of the purposes of this, of coming down to Cornwall and seeing you, is that you've produced an awful lot of crap on the internet. What's been the purpose of that? Have you just been a case of being angry? You really want to get at people because you're pissed off. You're really mad as hell.
Mm.
What's ultimately your intention with that, or has it been something you've just been so annoyed with?
No, I mean, it's not random acts of madness. I stay calm and think clearly. I plan everything I do. It's just, there was the...
I mean, this has really got lists of people, and
Yeah.
I haven't seen these lists. I have not been reading any of this stuff. I really I just didn't want to take part. Okay, so I don't really know what's been published, so I'm sort of doing this in the blind a little bit. But what do you feel is going to be the reaction to that, and how do you feel that's going to, the response is going to be?
Okay, everyone on that list is involved in collecting children for ritual murder. That's the bottom line. Everyone on that list. That list.
Now, which particular list are we talking about?
Without mentioning the list I've published about at least 5 times on my Facebook account. Prominent people in ufology. That list took 2 years to put together by people in the intelligence community. A few people died trying to get that information. Trying to put that information
Now, some of the people
together.
I may know, and I'm not going to talk about them, but I have to say that there are people who've responded to me directly, saying that certain intentions of individuals and certain groups were to target children.
Mm.
And I don't want to say what they are, and I'll leave that. I'll not go any further than that. But when you say that you're given lists by the intelligence community, what's to say it's just a random hate list or whatever you want to call it, that you just come out of with these guys respond and they want to take action? How do you answer them? How do you say, how would they, if they said you were talking rubbish, how would you say you're not talking rubbish?
Because the people on the list, there's multiple examples of them stalking people, infiltrating people's lives, and people almost dying, losing their families, like what happened to me, and all sorts of things happening. So there's people on the list were involved in rituals of Bohemian Grove. That's why I ended up in hospital. Don't end up in hospital with an IV drip in your arm with so much morphine in you it doesn't even work.
The other thing is that there's some people in the British, I think the American army, are pretty pissed off with you, in that they're saying that you've betrayed the army, you've betrayed secrets, you were never really in the army, and they're pretty hacked off. What do you say to those guys?
Not as pissed off.
In other words, if they came into the door and they're gonna beat the crap out of you because you son of a bitch, whatever, how would you respond to that from a verbal, intellectual point of view?
Not as pissed off as I am with the NSA and the American government. I did a lot for them, and look how I was repaid.
I think that's been a soldier's lot for quite a long time.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
The king and country and all that. And,
yep.
the veterans would say that.
It was worth it to go to America and be involved in the unification wars in New York.
What are the unification wars?
The Rothschild unification wars. Getting smuggled into Rothschild events by a man called Peter Lydon. There's pictures of him on my Facebook account too. He's Princess Diana's cousin. He was a friend of Haley and I and her mother. And he was the one who took us to the museum, got the gem out for me. And he was just on us, bang. He's like, we want to invite you to this event, this event, this event.
I mean, who was taking all those pictures of you in the army? I mean, people are saying you're not holding the gun right, you weren't really in the army, you just had...
just other soldiers. Yeah.
I mean, they seem to be staged.
No, I've got my yearbook down there.
What's a yearbook exactly?
A yearbook, when you get film, it's to document your time in the army. I've got the official yearbook down there. I'll show you that later. So, the unification wars.
Now, what are the unification wars? just
getting
probably,
smuggled into Rothschild events and shooting them in the face by
with guns.
by Heckler and Koch's and Smith and Wesson pistols. Basically,
How do you get
it's
in?
not rocket science.
I mean,
it's
there's one thing getting in.
You need somebody to not smuggle you in, but you need a guy to get in, and that was Peter Lydon. You know, he's Princess Diana's cousin, one of the Churchill Spencers, and
So you're saying that you got in and you shot Rothschilds,
yeah,
and you got away with it, and they're not going to feel a bit annoyed and come round and do you in.
yeah,
maybe in a mild kind of way.
they want to, but whether they do or not, it's a different story. You know. So
I mean, even if you didn't actually do that, surely saying that would maybe a couple of heavies come into the door, do a few things, whatever you think.
but I mean, I'm quite hard to kill,
I mean,
Miles. I think we've established this by now.
Is that the interdimensional time traveling bullet from Max?
Well, we've got.
So
You're always talking about.
I try to add a bit of comedy to this, but this is pretty serious.
Fine, that's fine. You always want evidence, okay? So we
I'm
want.
terrible. I'm
we've
really,
got-
really
no.
terrible. Yeah, I want actual physical evidence. I want that interdimensional time traveling bullet. And I want
Alright, okay,
whatever.
well, let's give you some evidence then, Miles. Okay,
Yeah.
we got the one of the guys posted a comment, I think, under the video, where it was a Daily Mail article or something. Oh, we're going all over the place here, different subjects bouncing on it. But anyway,
Yeah,
and it shows they're saying they're trying to develop bulletproof skin for soldiers.
yeah,
And it's some kind of. Did you know about it? Ghost
Yes.
spider weave. They weave under the
Yeah.
skin,
yeah,
and they showed video of it,
yeah.
of them building the skin and.
Talking about spiders, an individual I was talking to at the Probe conference. Oh, by the way, Sam sends his regards from the Probe,
Okay,
Probe
that's good.
conference.
Yeah.
He's worked very hard to keep a very good conference going in Lytham St Anne's or St Anne's on Sea. We had another spider report. What about these time travelling diamond spiders from Mars or Venus or whatever?
Well, let's stick to one subject.
Yeah, well, you
Yeah.
mentioned spiders.
We're on the.
We'll talk about that
bulletproof
later.
Skin. Got so much to talk about. Okay,
Yeah.
bulletproof skin. So they showed, and then they showed the bullets going into it, and it wasn't going through. But my case, there's a picture of me in no t-shirt on, and it's been run through a photograph enhancer. It's only just come out the last couple of days. It's all. Do you know what Enochian angelic scroll is?
We've heard a little bit about that.
The weird symbols.
Well, on the basis that we haven't, could you tell people what that is?
It's like ancient symbols from like Sumeria. It's supposed to be the language of the angels or something. It's all these strange symbols. So anyway, run the picture through an
This is from the
enhancer.
Book of Enoch, is that right?
Book of Enoch. Yeah.
Books of Enoch.
I don't think the symbols are actually in the Book of Enoch, but there's a whole alphabet of them.
Yeah,
I'm not an expert on that.
yeah.
Anyway, my skin is engraved with hundreds of them. They look like carvings or brands that have been put in.
Right.
And on the picture is, like I say, it's enhanced. There's not really any skin there. It's just a patchwork of angelic symbols, just from here to about here. We got those. You can really see them really clearly. So I think that's something to do with not interdimensional bullets.
Well, I'm talking.
real
It's a bit like
bullets from real guns.
the lone gunman or the Kennedy bullet. That the bullet that finally killed Kennedy. The joke is it's an interdimensional time traveling bullet,
Right.
which in the only way it's going to work for the official story to work with the Kennedy assassination is to have some kind of interdimensional time traveling bullet, which was the one that didn't shoot you because it was busy shooting Kennedy or something.
No, this wasn't interdimensional. This was like pulled out of his pants and shot me.
So you and Max aren't friends at the moment. You're not.
No, we're not friends.
Right. Just really to finish off this little section because I think we're running out of. I think out of one camera just very briefly. A lot of people have been hurt by the stuff you put up. What's the intention? And finally, what's your bottom line on that?
The naked pictures had to go out because there had to be a lot of attention brought to the case, and nothing sells like sex.
Okay.
And Hayley's old man was planning to have her murder at Bohemian Grove, and if we would have just freaked out and just like sort of withered away and just kept quiet,
Okay, well, we've run out of
Yeah.
the chip has run out on one, I suppose, the tape. So we'll just take a quick pause on that and a break, do maybe a cup of tea, and remember you want to just figure out what we want to actually finalise on that thing.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, Michael, let's address in simple terms all this stuff that you've just done. There's a lot of people who are screaming blue murder about being featured. What's your actual statement and justification for putting those people on those lists, or that list, and saying what you've said? You were saying a few things off camera.
Yeah, it's a controversial list. Bottom line is everybody on the list is involved in on the drone list. I have to make that clear because the list is split into 3 parts. Everybody on the drone list is involved in collecting children for ritual murder.
Now that is a heck of a thing to say. Those individuals be shocked, horrified, A, if they're actually involved, because obviously they're not going to want to be outed, and secondly, they're not involved and they're absolutely appalled at being accused of such horrendous crimes. How can you justify that?
Like I say, that list took 2 years to compile. People died in the intelligence community to get that list. Anybody do the research, really look into the lives of those people, and you'll come up with some interesting data. Like really dig.
Okay, that's the drone section. There's 2 other sections. Again, I have not seen this list, and I don't know the people that's been spoken about.
And then the other section is...
And we must actually make absolutely clear that this is allegations made by yourself. You're saying you've got backup for this. So I mean, if they want to come after you, and I'm saying reporting this as a public interest story, okay?
But I mean, what are they going to do? Are we such big cowards now that we can't tell the truth because we're scared of getting sued? What are they going to do?
Okay, well, what's the there's 2 other sections of the list.
Okay, the other
because we want to get Kathy in.
You got the drone section. People have been.
What do you mean by drone?
Drone. People need to look into Donald Marshall's material there. Droning is when some of the little reptiles in the bases, they have this proboscis that comes out like an insect, and they stick it into your eye and they inject themselves into your body. So it's like body snatching, and then they die. Inject them. Right. Everything that the reptile is into you. And they've been droned. And that's why they're involved in ritual murder of children.
Okay.
And the thing is, there's actually been a cure developed to bring the reptile and the human back into symbiosis, back into balance. They're developing a cure, they're spraying blood cells in the chemtrails.
This is a whole new thing. They're saying blood cells in the chemtrails, so that those who have already been droned will become human again. Is that?
Well, they'll bring them back towards being more human, and then normal people who haven't been droned will become more reptilian. So it's bringing the 2 into balance, which will need to happen for people to survive. They're spraying 3 lots of chemtrails. They're spraying wolf's blood in one of them, reptile blood in the second, and human blood in the third.
How does this work when you put stuff into a engine and it spews out? How does that all work?
I don't know, I'm not a scientist.
Okay, right.
All I know is they're spraying that blood in the air.
Right, okay, this is another thing. So the second category in the list is what?
The second category is non-people on the list who have been involved in my downfall. And it's not just my downfall, this is something that's going to affect the whole world. It's going to affect everybody. So it's the people who are non-drone that have been involved, and then there's the people who have been assassinated.
They have
Michael Hemmingson was assassinated in the Tijuana hotel.
Yeah, something that Steve Bassett did mention to me, that there now are people in this thing, in this type of thing, being assassinated, murdered.
Yeah, people being murdered.
Environmentalists
over this already.
Allegedly being taken by G4 security, allegedly, at the airports and things, never being seen again. But that's not part of your list. Would you not put your own name on that list based on your own actions being part of your downfall?
Well, I don't murder children.
But your so-called downfall, Do you think this is your downfall? Or?
No, it's not my downfall at all. This is all planned perfectly. Nothing ever happens in my life that I'm not in control of. This is all planned. I couldn't have stayed in America being paid off by the CIA with trust funds for doing hits and having Hayley's family breathing down my neck. I could have never spoke about this stuff. I had to come here because you always talk and you always want me to get.
Yeah, I'm going to push the envelope here. We need evidence. We need to get this out there because I mean, if this subject is so horrendous that if the conclusion that I'm coming up with more and more after 20 years of the Basis Project videos, since Barry King was first interviewed by the Irish Era camera at that time, way back in '93. I was doing a thing called the Irish Era Pirate Radio because of the changing consciousness in Ireland, which they wanted to shut down in the 60s, 70s, 80s and whatever. That's a different thing, but it's part of the same basic mix. Is that we need some data, and with any luck Barry will be able to get to the conference in Marlborough. Anybody who's appeared on the Yamash or the cameras that I've used is welcome. For 50% off, you might even get a free t-shirt if you give us your size. That's the plug for the conference in August 8th, 9th and 10th, 2014 in Marlborough College. Okay, so finally in my section here, what is going to be the next step? What do you think is going to be the result of all these things that you've been publishing? What do you think is going to happen?
Oh, I mean, this is becoming like biblical prophecy playing out and things. It's getting so big. I mean, I'm heading up towards like 100 million followers worldwide. It's just getting huge.
But is this because it's a bit of a funny soap opera, or it's good fiction and wow, or because you're actually having an effect? Until we get some hard...
Well, Hayley's being convinced that I'm nothing but a good science fiction writer. And she'll see in the future I am who I say I am. She can't bury her head in the sand. Things are
okay, this section's really between you and her. I have talked to Hayley. I have not talked to her. I've communicated with her on Skype that I don't want to contribute to any harm that would happen between yourselves by contributing in any way that's going to either cause you harm because you say something which you maybe regret later, or I'm not going to contribute to any mudslinging between the two. I want to try and make this as positive as possible, even though this is a really dark subject.
Yeah.
If you've got anything you've got to want to say, I mean, obviously you've been saying enough. What finally do you want to say about this situation? You know, a year ago we had a conference. I was there. I spoke there. Being invited back this year. This is obviously going to happen after the edit. But what your ultimate final word on this, as far as
like I said, it's getting huge now. This is biblical prophecy playing out. You know, I'm actually in the Bible. Daniel 12:2.
Now we're getting a little bit like David Shaler here and David Icke.
It's.
I mean, David Icke said.
No,
did all this when he said he was.
I'm not saying I'm Jesus or anything like that.
No, I mean, are we raving nutter time here?
No, I'm not saying I'm Jesus or anything. But this situation is talked about in Daniel 12:2. It says Michael the Great.
I always get cautious when people start quoting the Bible. Coming from Belfast,
I know.
I get. You know.
The point is, it says Michael the Great Prince at this time will arise, and it talks about the others who will be brought to disgrace. The people on the list.
Why are you?
This was known about by 2,000 years ago. This is prophesied to happen. All this, it's huge. Now this will affect the whole world.
Are you saying you're in the Bible because it was written at that time, or is it just a similar event?
No, this is talking about this time.
What is this time?
This is the time.
The end times, what?
Yeah, it talks about the end times. It says, at this time, Michael, the great prince, will arise. And it talks about the others that are brought to disgrace, a war between them. It's talking about the super soldier, civil war in it. And Donald Marshall has prophesied Nostradamus. I never really talk about anybody else in the movement, but Donald Marshall needs to be talked about because I'm hearing a lot of rumours and there's a lot of substance to him in the intelligence community, directly people from MI6, CIA. We're saying at some point in the future, Donald Marshall will become something akin to the emperor of mankind. This is becoming huge, this whole thing.
I mean, so you got Donald Marshall and yourself going to be big guys in the future of mankind.
When we were in the orphanage in Canada, it was run by the Nazis, it was run by the Jesuits too, because the Nazis were under order from the Catholic Church. They were always one. It was run by the Jesuits, and the symbol of the facility was a golden lion asleep with the words Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam, which is the Jesuit motto, to the greater glory of God. Now, we sat there it was one afternoon, and one of the boys was getting his blood drawn by a nurse there.
Yeah.
The nurse said, he asked the nurse why his blood is being drawn. The nurse said to him, because your blood is very special, and you are very special. And I was sat next to him. And the nurse said, we're creating the most powerful man in the world here.
And that guy, that baby, that child, is Donald Marshall.
He was there.
Who was that child?
They want to bring in the most powerful.
Who is they?
The Jesuits, the Catholic Church, the Vatican. The most powerful man in the world is the Black Pope, the head of the Jesuits. Now, they wanted to install the Black Pope. They wanted to pick one of the children and install the final Pope, which is prophesied. His name's Peter Romanus. He's prophesied as the final Pope. He's going to be the Black Pope and the head of the Jesuits. They were trying to move that person into place, and this is all where it's heading. The unification wars were just the beginning of that. And I'm an ordained priest. I was ordained as a priest on Fort Leonard Wood military base, in the military arm of one of the churches there. And I've got all my priesthood paperwork. I was ordained to the office of priest. And Michael Hemmingson called me Peter Romanus on the last interview that he did before he died. And what people don't know, Michael Hemmingson, former White Hat, was an Opus Dei operative.
So what now? Where is Michael Prince, aka the James Casbolt? I mean, what's the next step? Where do we see the story going from here?
Opus Dei operatives are being sent into America now to take care of certain things as we speak. And it's to do with the list again. Opus Dei operatives, they wear cilice. You know what? You familiar with a cilice? Yeah. A cilice it's like a self-mutilation. It's like a belt that you wear around your neck, and around your leg, and it's got spikes on the inside. And you pull it. They have to wear it 2 hours a day, and it's self-mutilation. And they also have to whip themselves and carve themselves. And Opus Dei do it. A lot of the Opus Dei members in Ireland do this, because a lot of the Opus Dei members are suicide soldiers. They will have a target, go in there and blow themselves up, and that's why they're doing the self-torture. They're getting ready to do that, and they've been doing, for years.
Do we have any evidence of that? Has it started, or is it happening, or what?
You mean
of actual suicide bombers? I mean, this is obviously a very serious terrorist level threat. Some people would argue.
But they believe they'll be resurrected if they do that.
So this is a Christian type of suicide bomber that's going to go into places and blow themselves up.
Yeah, exactly. And they're building an underground chamber down there. As you can see, I posted a lot of pictures of it as it's being developed on Facebook. You got a lot of underground caves below here. You got an underground river that runs underneath it.
Now we're in St Ives, and this is very rocky terrain. It's very granite. Lots of right beside the Irish Sea. The coast here is just the Irish Sea.
And out the back you got the biggest trees in St Ives. So there's a cave system. They've hollowed it out, and they've actually built an underground chamber below the flat, and it's for Opus Dei rituals. It's actually been built by Opus Dei. You can see all the big concrete block girder they've laid across it. So they're tunnelling into this.
Well, right, that's out of time for the basis for my section of this, and we'll take a quick break, and we'll bring Kathy in, and she's got some questions from another individual who's made contact.
Okay.
We'll take it from there.
Yeah. She's a little
Okay.
It's your show, Kathy.
Right, Michael, I was really interested when you mentioned about Opus Dei running operations, and I would like to ask you in a minute about the Rothschild events, but before that, on a personal research level, because I went to a school myself that was run by Jesuit nuns, and when you said that Opus Dei were running operations, I just thought about where I was moved to was just 3 miles from Rudloe Manor for 7 years, where there's a big underground facility there, and I wondered if you knew anything about Opus Dei involvement, maybe historically in the early 60s, anything that went on around Rudloe Manor and possibly involving the Jesuits. I know that's a lot to throw at you there.
I'm not really too familiar with Rudloe Manor, and I'm not really too familiar with stuff that went on back in the 60s either.
Sure.
Well, they're both military arms of the Vatican, Jesuits and Opus Dei.
Right, well, there's this, a set of nuns called the Carmelite nuns, and they're called the handmaidens of the Jesuits. Mm-hmm. And when my sister was born, a Carmelite nun visited my mum and told her what to name her.
Right.
It's kind of weird, you know, so I'm just putting these pieces together.
Yeah.
But Rudloe Manor, the only thing is that Mark Richards was around Rudloe Manor and in Rudloe Manor in the early 60s. And he maintains that there was a time anomaly type of event which was caused by an attack during a conference, an alien human conference,
right,
in 61 in Exeter. So Rudloe Manor comes into his accounts. And there are parallels between some of your, I think if what he's saying is to be understood, he was also a pilot of an advanced spacecraft, called the Minerva, and yours is the Cassiopeia.
Calliopeia.
Everybody
struggles with that.
I know, the Calliopeia. So that was one thing I was interested in, and so you, Fritz Springmeier actually said that the Jesuits run a network of mind control. They basically run the mind control network on a local basis in England and internationally.
Yeah, well, the White Pope, the official Pope, is actually controlled by the Black Pope, and the Black Pope is the head of the Jesuits.
Yeah.
The Black Pope's more of like a sort of a bit of a rude nickname. His official title is Father General, I think. But he's the most powerful man in the world. Him and his 6 generals, the Black Pope, control the Vatican and control the White Pope. And there were some Jesuits that were posting comments. They were kind of following around forums and posting comments, I think, on one of the bases, and one of the guys said, this one man is the Father General of the Society of Jesus, talking about me. And the Society of Jesus is the official name of them. They're not actually called the Jesuits, called the Society of Jesus. That's their proper official term, official name, Society of Jesus, yeah. But like I say, the Jesuit orphanage in Canada, Nazis in the Catholic Church, they were trying to groom the final Pope at some point in the future, trying to groom the Black Pope. He's also known as Peter Romanus, or Peter the Roman, in prophecy.
Right.
So, and they were trying to, like the nurse said, they were trying to create the most powerful man in the world there.
Yeah, so they're very much involved in the New World Order and Illuminati agenda, would you say? Oh yeah, so this is what I was interested in, the position, because there seems to be warring factions, the Rothschilds and the Opus Dei attacking.
Opus Dei were attacking the Rothschilds.
Right.
Yeah, in that situation.
And presumably there's another faction too, at least. Others.
It pretty much it broken off into those two factions. If we talk about Mars, it's basically the Nazis versus the Jews again.
Right.
Because the whole Catholic Church,
that's
the whole
it,
Nazi element.
Basically, that's it, polarises into
Yeah,
that.
pretty much, yeah. And then the two bloodlines brought together, the sort of the prince and the princess, Mary and Haley having the baby, was to bring them together and create that symbol.
Right.
The swastika and the Star of David.
Right.
So...
Right, and talking about prophecy, you were saying about Daniel 2. Interesting.
Daniel 12, I think
12
it is.
2, was it? Michael the Great Prince. And it just reminded me, actually, when you said it, I wasn't going to ask you, but it reminded me of that prophecy that's been going round, that somebody passed from me to you, and then there seems to be... a lot of stuff in that applies to you, although it was given to somebody else who feels that, well, I wonder what your opinion was. I think he feels that he might have been one of the 42 himself, children.
A lot of people are coming forward
I bet
saying they're one of the 42.
But you've seen the prophecy that he's had, and that almost could apply to all the 42.
Yeah, that's very accurate.
Would you say?
Yeah. What that reading?
Because I think that will be made public anyway soon, and will be. And in fact, the person we're talking about is going to be the subject of a basis interview.
Yeah, that was very accurate. And Daniel 12:2, like it says.
I'm just going to move this.
Does that relate to what's in that list? What was in that reading?
It's exactly because it says at this time Michael the Great Prince will arise. What they're talking about now.
Yeah.
And it's the same as the symbol, the Jesuit symbol is the sleeping lion in the orphanage in Canada. At some point that lion's going to wake up.
Are you talking about the orphanages that Kevin Annette has been exposing as having... Are you talking... Which orphanage?
Oh, I grew up in an orphanage in Nelson,
right.
in British Columbia in Canada.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So there's
the
Jesuits.
first 4 years of my life it was run by the Jesuits and the Nazis.
Ah, right, yeah.
And the symbol's a sleeping lion with the Jesuit motto.
It seems that the Nazis just infiltrated every power situation at the end of the war and kind of started running a lot of the world.
Yeah, well, what's interesting there is that the Nazis didn't infiltrate it per se. Hitler was under orders from the Vatican and under orders from the Pope to reclaim the lands of the separated brethren, the white Aryan nation. And his job under orders from the Pope was to unite all the white brotherhood from America, England and Germany into one.
Yeah.
So he was under orders from the Pope and the Vatican to do that. So they've always been one organisation, really.
Yeah, he certainly didn't accept that England was going to be fighting him, even when they declared war. He really didn't.
Because he didn't want to attack them.
Yeah.
So the Aryan nation.
Interesting. Yeah.
So are you saying that the fact that World War II was won, not Britain, the so-called West, the so-called American NATO and allies, or not NATO, the Allies, you're saying that the Allies didn't win World War II, that Hitler or the Nazis did win it and they took control of the associated countries like the United States and the UK?
Do you know what? I think it was fought to a standstill when the war was carried on from that in the unification wars even. That just happened in New York. That was the Nazis versus the Jews again, Nazis versus the Zionists. Well, the Catholic Church versus the Zionists.
What particular thing in New York you're referring to?
The shooting on the night of the Blenheim Palace fundraiser. I've just done a video about this. I sort of interviewed, I just spoke myself on the camera. Yeah.
To my house.
Okay, so we'd gone in Hayley, Deb and I, Peter Lydon got us in again, Princess Diana's cousin, and it was in Sotheby's. You know, you saw the picture of me and the Duke, everyone's seen that. There was a riot outside when we got there. There was a riot happening, there was all police in that riot gear. There was the Occupy Wall Street people. It's going crazy outside there. So I walked past and this guy
in a
runs
penguin
up.
suit, great.
Yeah, I walked past and this guy runs up to me and goes, "Hey mother, are you going in there to count some money?" And then this woman runs up to Hayley and goes, "Fuck you and your jacket," to Hayley. But we ignored them, just carried on walking in, and then gone in. And there'd be they were auctioning on things like watches and stuff. And we had a dinner. We were sat to the left. Evelyn Rothschild's entourage was sat in the middle. It was Evelyn Rothschild, and there was about 9 of them sat there. And I'd gone in the toilet, and there was a toilet attendant. You get up toilet attendants these places give you aftershave and stuff like that. And it was planned before all this, what was going to happen. So I'd gone in there. He was Opus Dei, toilet attendant.
Right.
Yeah, we were talking, and he gave me the green light. Gone in there, and there was a hollow compartment in the wall.
Was you just triggered at some point and then you knew what to do?
Yeah, I got reminded
But you
of stuff.
didn't know when you arrived at that place?
Well, I'm always under a certain degree of hypnosis, or permanently,
Right.
So it's just, people tell you stuff and then you just, oh right, you remember, oh of course, yeah, we had that meeting last week, didn't we, and we're going to do this. It's pretty simple really, it's not rocket science. And it's pretty easy to hypnotise somebody. So there's a hollow compartment in the wall, pulled out as Heckler & Koch mini machine gun, submachine gun in there, and lifted up the system, Smith & Wesson taped underneath it. And I just cut the pistol, put it in my pants, cut the Heckler & Koch, walked out, and he gave me the Opus Dei signal speaking in Latin. Everything's always in Latin with them. And just walked out, just with the submachine gun in my hand, and I got about 10 feet away from him and just opened fire on the table. And,
was this reported in the news?
No,
Right.
nothing reported whatsoever.
So you're saying you killed how many people?
Shot about 9, there was about 9, shot about 9 of them. Just emptied the clip, sprayed them. The people to the right, I was shooting them in the back, like that, around chest level. And then you always, once you empty the clip, you always just drop the gun in these situations. You always just drop the gun on the floor. And then pulled out the Smith & Wesson and just emptied it in. I was shooting people in the face then with the pistol. They were the ones facing me. And then the whole place just erupted in a riot, people running around screaming. It was just chaos. And I dropped the pistol. And then they always told to walk off calmly after you do the shooting. And we just got out of there, and there was a car waiting for us. But the riot outside was to cover up the noise and the chaos inside. What was going on?
So
Now, there have
you
been
feel
British
that-
soldiers,
Okay.
and there have been American soldiers. You absolutely think this is, they really, they're pretty. They think this is not true, and they think that you're bringing the relevant agencies and armies into disrepute. Oh, you didn't do this, whatever. What if you're talking to a bunch of guys who disagree with you violently about this? What would you say to those people?
Well, I'd say, why would all this massive effort, all these people to bring me down, try and destroy me? It's a big network, it's a lot of effort. Why, if I haven't done anything, why bother doing all that? I've lost everything. I'm sat here with no money. And more importantly, I sat here with no family. And it's because it's revenge, because of what I've done. But I knew it would happen. I knew there'd be fallout.
Okay, so.
But the war's just beginning, Miles.
So obviously there's, in a sense, even only metaphorically, a war, there's evil and dark forces, and those that are struggling to bring the light. The sides in the war, but would you say that you were an unwilling participant for a particular side? Because would you recognise either of those sides? I mean, you're working for the Opus Dei against the Rothschilds. I mean, as a hired hand, presumably you don't want to further their causes as such. I mean, are you an unwitting participant, if you like? Is it something that you can't resist?
I support the Catholic Church because I was raised by them, and I support bringing forward the final Pope that's been prophesied.
I see. So you do.
I support
you do
that.
support
Peter Romanus. I support bringing him out because he can't. You know, the joke Pope. It's like Stan Laurel. The new Pope, Francis I.
Okay, I didn't look into him.
Well, he's called the joke Pope. It's like the Pope's supposed to have charisma, and
I was brought up Catholic too.
and he's just that's what he's called, the joke Pope, because he's not the real Pope. The whole Catholic Church, the whole world is waiting for Peter the Roman, Peter Romanus, and he's going to be the final Pope. He's going to be the man.
Right.
It's going to change everything, and that's who they were grooming in our orphanage.
That man.
That man, they said, we're going to create the most powerful man in the world. And it's only a small group of boys.
Yeah. And so somebody did refer to you.
And Michael Emerson worked for Opus Dei, and he referred to me on the radio show before he died as Peter Romanus.
I see.
And was talking. It all takes a bit of looking into.
Yeah, interesting.
And I'm an ordained priest. I was ordained as a priest in Fort Leonard.
Presumably not a Jesuit priest.
I was put into a military arm of the church.
On the
base.
Church?
It was actually the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Right.
The Mormons. Yeah.
Is that the Jehovah's Witnesses?
No, it's the Mormons.
Right.
Yeah. I was ordained as a priest in there, and that was a stepping stone to have credibility with the Catholic Church. At some point in the future. So it's not like I'm done.
They're developing you in a kind of spiritual sense as well as
it's not even really spiritual. It's just like it's kind of military and political.
Right.
You know, it's just like Donald Marshall talked about this. They needed a strong leader to talk humanity and the public through a alien body snatching crisis. They need to, which is happening now. They needed someone to come in and talk everyone through it so people don't freak out and say, it's okay, it is under control, we'll handle this. And this is what's happening now. But it's not like, I'm not done now. It's not like, oh, all this has happened, I'm finished. It's just the beginning.
Sure.
So...
Yeah, sure, because people waking up, myself, I'm a good example because I saw your stuff and I thought something really weird had happened. I hadn't even looked into my background, but when I saw you, I looked, and there was loads of weird stuff. Being visited by a doctor every 3 months, when up to the age of 4, for a supposed survey that nobody else got. You know, some bits and bobs, moved down to the bum and a light coming in the window, feeling like I was being examined, blah, blah, blah. All that business,
all the usual signs.
But it was your stuff that made me think England, because I'd just seen it as a distance, something that was going on in the States before that I saw you, and you was talking about England. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just, Donald Marshall talks about it, yeah. It's going to be somebody who's going to come on.
I think you research too, you articulate in a lot of your own research that you can put it all, you're putting the picture together, whereas that's hard to do for a lot of years when you start looking into what's going on. So you are speaking out in those ways for sure, I can see right now.
Yeah, and this is just the beginning, because I have to start speaking at conferences so people can see me and talk to me and know that I'm not lying. Can't keep posting stuff on Facebook. It's like, you can, but it doesn't come across properly in text. People need to see you like we're doing now. Yeah.
Well, I think that would be really great. Yeah, a good way to get it all out there.
Do you have any further questions, Kathy, you want to ask that you have a list of?
Shall I? Well, this is. I mean, like,
we've got about 25 minutes left.
Just you can
These will be posed by just somebody else.
Right, okay. Yeah, somebody else is researching Mark Richards, and he sees a lot of parallels with your story from Mark Richards' life, from what he says about his life, and he's published reams and reams and reams of reports and biographical stuff. This friend, Dr. Julian Salt, he's been researching this for a couple of years now, and has sent some questions. He sees parallels because he feels that he was also brought up for a specific task in black projects and super advanced technology and other parallels. So shall I start at number one?
Yeah.
It'd be easy way. Okay, so E.T. treaties, real or not?
Real, without a doubt.
So have you got any knowledge of ET treaties that you might have come across from your experiences as opposed to what's in the public domain?
What is it? The Tau Treaty is an
That's it,
important one.
Tau 9.
Yeah, Tau 9. I think there's been more than one Tau. But the symbol is like a line that goes down with a line at the bottom. That's one of these carvings I've got on my body.
Oh, that's really
Is what
interesting.
is that
And maybe
symbol.
we could get hold of that picture.
Yeah, it's on my iPad, those pictures. It's we're not sure whether they're carvings. Some of them look like they'd be done with a scalpel, or brands. Some of them look like brands. But again, it's the
Let's
Opus.
find out what
It's
those
the
symbols
Opus
were.
Dei connection, because you
Uh-huh.
could get mutilated in the silices and things like that.
Oh yeah, with the old cat and knife.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Right, so let's see. The rest of the next 5 questions are about the treaty I've talked to you about, so I won't go into that just now. The Houston, unless you do know anything more about it, the 1934
No,
treaty.
Don't have any more information.
Okay. What else have we got here now? Okay, he wonders why what the ultimate agenda is, what you, in your opinion, of the alien treaty is. So, I mean, I suppose in light of what we've just been talking about, where do Opus Dei and the aliens fit? You know, I mean, are they on opposing sides?
I mean, space travel's horrible. It's nothing that anybody wants to do, and there's pretty much nothing but death out there, and like predatory races, like insects and nasties. It's not like great, and it's not like enlightenment in the stars. And the treaties, from my experience, have mostly been cons to them to infiltrate, and they just want to. Like the reptilians are run by a group of queens, females, and they just want to set up all these factories underground for like human meat processing factories.
And it's any way in of the pretend to be friendly, and I suppose that's more of a general question for you. One particularly for you is about your ship. What happened to it?
Calopia. Yeah, I got blown up after I left America. Self-destructed from the inside. And came down over Syria.
Right. Is there any footage of that? Do you know?
There was some footage around Syria of craft that look very similar to that, yeah. Okay,
and that is just run me through what it stands for again.
Calopia, Catalyst Accelerator, Long Range Orbital Platform, Intelligence Apparatus. Because the last bit's got an AI system on board, so there's a female
That'd be
artificial
an interesting
intelligence
thing to go into as well. Have you heard of Solar Warden?
Yeah, but I'm not too familiar with it.
He's wondering if that might be a success to the Orion space fleet, and if you know what happened to the actual Orion space fleets.
Well, the Orion Queens are the ones that run the reptilians. The Queens from Orion.
Oh yeah?
It's like a female-run system, a bit like the Jewish system. You know, everything's passed through the female mother.
Right.
So
Oh, right.
yeah, it's based in Orion, the Queens. Yeah.
Does Obama and Hillary Clinton know about all this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Are there ET bases on the moon and on Mars?
Yeah. Dark side of the moon, Nazi base, Clavius, and dark side of the moon. Yeah. Mars. Mars is like Mars. When you go to Mars, it's like Arizona. Yeah. Exactly like Arizona, and there's all like holiday apartments there and things. For like billionaires.
Brilliant.
You could take people to Mars and tell them they were in Arizona, they wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that said before somewhere too. Basically, do you know anything about, is there a timeline for disclosure?
I think this is it. It's sort of like being left to us to do. It's like they shut down the Ministry of Defence, didn't they? And then Guy did all the phone calls to Miles. So, didn't they, Miles? Something like that? So it looks like it's down to us.
Yeah, we've got to do it.
Yeah.
You see these questions,
We've got to
each
empower
one
the
is an
people.
hour split. I mean, talking really, they're such wide questions, so,
That's right.
you know, I'm putting you on the
That's
spot here. So, are the stargates all over the planet?
Yeah, yeah.
And are they fixed or temporary?
Well, there's a sea gate out near the drop zone here.
Oh, yeah.
I want to take you out there tomorrow.
Yeah.
To near the cliffs and explain all the setup. But yeah, under the sea too, yeah, like a mile off the coast
And
there.
is that a permanent one?
Yeah, permanent. I'll tell you all about it tomorrow and I'll take you out there.
Okay. And that's, I think that's about it really. Was the Montauk, was the Philadelphia experiment what started everything in terms of UFOs? In other words, did it create a rift and allow...
The gate that brought them in,
Yeah.
I think it was important.
I thought the German stuff did that in the 30s.
Yeah, I think there were some major events, trigger events. I think the whole Philadelphia
thought-
thing was one of them.
They thought they got a spacecraft to take them flying somewhere, but they actually were given a Trojan horse.
Yeah, I
Some
heard
people
that.
have said that. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I'm not too sure about that, such a long time ago. I don't really know what I've done in the last few years since I was a kid.
Sure, well thanks for that. And I didn't know what those questions were going to be myself.
That's fine.
okay, well, thank you very much. That's a wrap for tonight.
Thank you.